Thank you, Martin. I just want to show you here how to connect Google Classroom, and a new feature we're going to talk about as well is Google Sites. So we're just going to look at how we can connect the two together to create kind of a unit of learning for our students that's going to help both with blended learning, online learning, and basically the new classroom that we're going to enter into in this academic year. The first thing just to go to Google and just make sure that you're in your Donegal ETB account to access the Google Apps. I'm just going to do this little the 9 square icon here, and you'll see all your Google applications. Google Classroom, probably a lot more people are probably more familiar with that one because I've been using it mainly since March the 12th. We're going to look at Google Sites here, which is just down here. I'm just going to click on Google Sites. And basically what Google Sites is, it's an application where Google allows you to make your own websites. So within the ETB, we've created our own template, and you're going to have access to this. There's loads of templates out there, but we have one here created called template. So you're just going to click on that one, and it'll be the first one that will show up for you. Okay, so this here is our template for our Google site. As you can see, it says template at the top. It's got name as a heading. It's got introduction. It has section pages here as well. And it has features here on the right hand side. As you can see, it's blue in color, but I'll show you how to change that around as we go on through the webinar. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of this, and I'm going to call it the cell. Let's just pretend I'm teaching first years now about plant cells and animal cells as an introduction unit to the biological world in junior cycle of science. To help me remember where this website is going to be, because it's going to be stored in my Google Drive, I'm going to go up here to the word template, and I'm also just going to call this the cell as well. Okay, and as you can see, the ETB logo is there as well. There's an introduction page here, which we will talk about, which has got introduction. It's got learning outcomes on different key learnings on sections. We're not going to worry about that too much in this webinar, but we're going to just go over here to section 1. Okay. And within section 1 is basically the first little introduction. We've got prior knowledge, learning intentions. Again, everything here you're going to get. I'm going to call this section 1. I'm going to say animal and plant cells. Okay. I'm just going to call it animal and plant cells. Like that's my kind of heading overall for that section. Okay. Within each website here, what we're going to do is we're going to create tasks for the students to complete. But within for each section, we're going to have our learning intentions basically written out. So we've got a little drop down box here. It says learning intentions. In this lesson, you will, what I'm going to say is I'm going to say differentiate between animal and plant cells. Okay, so as a student is on that website and they click on learning intentions, they will know that a part of that lesson is to tell the difference between animal cells and plant cells. So the first one here is this task. Now, how do we actually get anything within our website here? Well, I want you to look over here at the right hand side. We have a few key features here. We have a text box, we have an image, we have a Google Drive icon, and we have embedded. Basically, if I want to insert any text into the website, I'm going to have a text box. So I'm just going to click that, and it opens up a text box like this. Within that text box, you could basically write down anything that you want or any instructions for the students. And you have a range of text here. If you want it small, you want it a subheading, a heading, or just normal text. You're bold, italic, if you want it numbered, bullet point, etc., etc. Kind of the same as your Google Docs. Okay. If I want to delete that, then I'm just going to press this little icon over here, just a little button to delete that. So I have here a text box. For this task, we are going to explore the similarities, or sorry, let me see, state the similarities and differences, differences between animal and plant cells. Okay, so that's my text box there now. Now, I want to include a picture of cells, and I have stuff already stored within my own Google Drive. So if you click on this icon over here for your Google Drive, it actually opens up your entire Google Drive in a short little segment like this. Okay, so all your Google file folders will show up here, and all you have to do is go into your folder, click on what you want, and basically drop everything over in here. So I'm going to go down here. I've got one called the cell here. I have an image here that I want tacked over. I'm just going to press it and press insert, and that inserts my image like that. I can crop my image here if I want. I can make it bigger, etc. by just looking at the little blue cursor and moving it over and back, etc. Okay. I can also move this image around. So if I want this image over here to the right hand side, all I have to do is drag it over and you can see a blue box there in the background, or if I want to put the image there in the center. So you can just move it around as you go along. So I'm just going to move this image back over here. And I want to show the kids a video. And the video to go with this task, I want it to come from YouTube. Now, instead of just going out of here into a brand new tab and opening up YouTube, or open up YouTube down the bottom here, if you've got a Chromebook, I'm going to go on ahead down here to the right hand side, and you have a little button here, and it's called YouTube. And basically this is like a mini YouTube where it opens up as a separate little window. And you can search your own videos here. So let's just say, for instance, I want to look up animal cells and plant cells. Okay. And it's just going to search it the exact same way that it would do in YouTube. Here, and let's say, for instance, I want to insert this video here. Okay, and I'm going to press select, and it basically inserts that video directly from YouTube. Again, if I wanted this here video to appear above the image, all I have to do is grab the entire thing here, and you can see the blue cursor in the background, and it kind of highlights, and it drags it up above that. Okay. If I want it side by side, exact same, where I can move this here around, you can see the blue box. I'm going to move the blue box over there. I want this up here beside it, etc., and it goes right beside it like that. Don't worry too much about the design part. Today, what we're mainly showing you here is these features. We can insert a text box, which is like this. We can insert anything from Drive, which I just did with that image, and I can insert a YouTube video just like that. Okay. Now, let's say, for instance, if I have an image stored on my laptop, I can just go here to Images, and I can go to Upload. Let's say if I want to open up YouTube and search for an image, I just go to Select here, and it does actually open up YouTube here as well. It opens up different things that have been stored in my Google Drive, etc., or photos. Okay. Just be very, very careful as well of the images you're collecting or putting up here in your drive, because you don't want to be breaking any copyright laws. So the best idea is just to give credit for any of the images that you put up, and we can show you a bit about that, about the copyright as well. Okay, so we have our text box, we have our headings up here, we have our text box, we have our image, and we also here have our video. The next thing we're going to do is we're just going to show the instructions for the students what I want you to do in this task. So here's task 1. For this task, we're going to state the similarities and differences between animal cells and plant cells. Okay. Let's say, for instance, I want to bring that text box down. I want it down here below it. Again, just go up here, drag the entire thing. It goes underneath like that. Okay. I'm going to insert another text box, and it's just going to go down at the bottom. So every time you insert something, it always goes down underneath. I'm going to say, watch the video clips, and complete the Venn diagram below. Okay, I'm going to highlight this. It's normal text. Let's say, for instance, okay, I'll just highlight it very quickly. Let's say, for instance, I want to make it a little bit bigger, make a little subheading, etc. like that. So unfortunately, it's a little bit limited with the sizes, but you can basically play around and change out some of the sizes there if you want. So unfortunately, it doesn't go like Times New Roman 12, 10, 12, 14, 18, things like that. Hopefully that will change in the future. Okay, so what I want to do is I have a Venn diagram stored in my Google Drive. So I'm going to go up here again to my Google Drive, and it opens up this right hand side. And I'm going to go down to where I have it stored, and I have it stored in here under the cell. And this is just a Google Doc that I have created, and on the Google Doc I just put 2 circles and made a Venn diagram, and I'm going to insert that there. That there has now inserted that Venn diagram. Okay, that's just a Google Doc. I can drag this down to make it a little bit bigger so I can show the whole thing, just like that. Okay. Now, if you scroll down here on the right hand side again, I could just go here to Google Docs. I could go to Google Slides, Sheets, Forms, Charts, whatever you want to create, you can create it in this site, or anything that's stored in your Google Drive, you can put it over here as well. Okay. Now the idea is that when you're creating animal and plant cells here, I am not giving the students a theory or all the theory behind it. I'm not replicating the textbook. I'm not recreating the textbook by just typing all the theory out. This is using your instructional leadership strategies. So you're looking at the actual learning and the formative assessment techniques that are taking place. So here I have an image and I have the video. For this task, we're going to state similarities and differences between animal and plant cells. Watch the video clips and complete the Venn diagram below. Okay. Now, an issue here that we have is this is a Google Doc. If students are seeing this on the screen, how exactly do we get the students to fill in the gap of animal cells here and plant cells here? Well, what we do is we provide instructions like this. Please go to Google Classroom and submit this task, this piece of work, let's say for instance, this piece of work under section 1, task 1. Now the reason why I'm saying section 1, task 1 is because the page here that I'm on is called section 1 and the task is task 1. Okay. And again, I'm just going to highlight this and make it a little bit bigger just so you can see it like that. Okay. Now the idea is that the students are going to submit this formative assessment via Google Classroom. Okay. And that's what's very different. We're not just creating a Google site, we're actually going to create a Google Classroom. So now what we need to do is we just need to go to our Google Classroom and you'll have all your courses like this. Okay. And all you do is just go up to this little plus symbol and go to create class and type in the name of your website. So I named mine The Cell. And then I've just made one earlier here before we went live. And this is mine here called The Cell. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to classwork. And normally, well, you've already done this before where you create your topics, etc. So I'm going to create a topic and I'm going to call this topic section 1. Okay. So section 1 is one page of my website. And under section 1 then, I'm going to create an assignment. And I'm going to call this assignment task 1. And this task 1 is the Venn diagram. Okay. Oh, actually, we can put the Venn diagram up here, task 1, just so it's easier for everybody to see. Venn diagram. I'm going to say, please submit a photo of your completed Venn diagram here. Okay. And I'm going to assign it. I'm not going to put a due date or anything like that, but I am going to put it under the topic section 1. Okay. But just for the purposes, I'm not going to put a due date or anything or any points or anything like that. So there is task 1 Venn diagram. Okay. Now, if this here is my website here, here's my task. We've already done some features here. We have our text box, we have our images, we have some videos, and they have some information here for students. Now, if I'm a student and I want to create this Venn diagram here, please go to Google Classroom and submit this piece of work under section 1, task 1. Now, this is probably the most important part here, where we're going to link this Google site here to the Google Classroom. We're going to look down here at the right-hand side and you go to button. Okay. And we're going to name this button, click here to go to Google Classroom. Or you can just call it Google Classroom. Okay. The most important part here is the link. So we're basically making a button to go to a link. So what you're going to do is go to your cell, go to whatever Google Classroom it is, and just copy and paste the link from here and paste it into this here and press the word insert, and that will create a button. Now, exact same as before, it's a very, very small button, but this little blue box here, if I just scroll it over, it allows me to expand that button and to make it much bigger. Okay. Again, if I don't want the button there, I want it up above, I can move the button around wherever I want the button to go. Say, for instance, I want to go there. If I want the button to go in the middle, I can make it go in the middle with the blue box in the background, like that. Okay. So the idea is that the formative assessment and the learning is taking place here on the site. The students have access to the work here, and then to go then have to click here to the Google Classroom where they're actually going to put their work in. So we're just going to go to preview mode here. I'm just going to press this preview. Now, this here is what the students would see. We haven't filled out the prior knowledge, but we have filled out the learning intentions. In this lesson, you will differentiate between animal cells and plant cells. As they go down to task 1, here's an image that I uploaded. Here's a video I uploaded. The nicest thing about this is that we can play the video here in this website. It doesn't open up an automatic YouTube site and leads to different tabs. So if we press play here, so it just opens up that video, and the students have the option of making it a full screen here if they want to. Okay. This here is obviously a large screen view, what students are going to see. If students, a lot of students probably don't have laptops at home if they're accessing this at home. So they go to here a tablet version like so. And if they had an iPad or some kind of Android tablet, this is exactly what they would see. Now, during online learning, I use this platform, and what I noticed is about 80% of the students access it using their mobile phones. And Google is very nice in the fact that they have actually made it accessible for mobile phones. And it shows you here with this phone view how the students would actually view it. And it'll be like this, where there's learning intentions. They can click that, move down, there's your task, and there's your Venn diagram there, etc. But I suppose the biggest thing I want to show you here is this Google Classroom that students have. They know exactly what they have to do. They have to watch the video, and after the video, they have to fill in the Venn diagram, but they have to complete it going to Google Classroom. And if they press that button there, it links it to the Google Classroom that we have created for them. And under classwork, then they will have the sections and they will have that Venn diagram. So the students, what the students can do is they can draw the Venn diagram into their actual copies, and they can take a photograph of it, and then using their mobile phone, take a photograph of it and upload it here to this section here. For us going back to school, it's going to be very different in the fact that we probably won't be collecting a lot of physical work from the students for obvious reasons. So this is actually a very nice way of tracking the teaching and learning as students are going along. So they're going to submit the photographs on here. As well as that, there might also be issues with books and students, and there might be issues with some students not being able to have textbooks for different reasons. So basically the learning can take place here on their mobile phone, on a tablet, or on a web page if they have access to a laptop at home. Okay. So just to recap very quickly, the main features here, do not worry too much about the design part. The main features here we looked at was a text box, which is down here. There's 2 text boxes here. Here's how to upload an image using images, or if you have an image stored in your drive, you can press drive here. If you have any other activities or any question sheets or anything you want uploaded, as long as the learning is taking place here, here is from your Google Drive. Just to say one more time, you're not trying to rewrite the textbook. You're not writing out theory upon theory upon theory. This is basically a learning platform where we're linking a learning website that we created to a classwork website where we can record learning as we go along. I'm just going to show you one more little thing, and this is the themes up here on the right hand side. When you join this, you will be given this template here. Okay, but you can actually change the color and the style of the writing. So say for instance, I don't really like the blue there. I'm going to change it to maybe a purple color, or I'm going to change it to a green color. Okay, let's say for instance, I want to keep a green color. It just changes it and just makes it look a little bit better. Okay, again, you can change if you want to say diplomat down here, it changes the text. If I want it to be that color, it just changes it over and back and puts a little box around that. There is a few different ones, and you can swap and change over to personalize it up a little bit, but don't worry too much about that. We can show you. I just want to show you now one that I made before Easter, and I used it after Easter for online learning just to track first year students as they work through it. So I made a unit here called the circulatory system. Okay. And if I just go to section 1 here in the circulatory system, I'm going to do a preview mode here just to show you what the students would have seen. Now, don't worry too much about the design in this. I put in pictures in the background. I have my learning intentions in there, and I have some prior knowledge that students might be aware of, and I put in their keywords. So they would have access to this, as I said, on a laptop or on a tablet like this, or more than likely, a lot of them give feedback to say that we got it on a mobile phone. Okay. So this is just the website view. Here is my first task, which was a 3-2-1 activity. So that's just a heading. I put in a text box here, nice and simple. I said you can complete this in your own copies and go to the Google Classroom page under task 1. They had 2 videos to watch here, which were side by side. Again, I have to press play. Okay, and that one plays, and I have to press play over here. What is blood? Well, blood is made up of 4 major components. That one plays as well. Okay, so students have a choice of which one want to play. The nice thing about this is it doesn't open up YouTube as a separate link. I suppose the most important part here was to click here to access Google Classroom. So if I wanted students to do section 1 today and I want them to do task 1 and they have until tomorrow to complete it, well, they watch the videos, but how do they complete this? How do they do 3 keywords, 2 interesting facts, and 1 question from these video clips? They click here to access Google Classroom. So I built a Google Classroom in the background. So I've just pressed that. It opens up the circuitry system Google Classroom. And in here is all the classwork associated with that. So here's a section 1, section 2, section 3, and section 4. And I can see all the different activities and tasks the students have completed. So if I want task 1 done, there's task 1. I've got task 2 down here where I put in a Google Doc. And again, they can fill in that research grid or they can write it into their copies. The idea is that the students don't all have to have a laptop sitting in front of them. They don't have to have a mobile phone or a tablet or anything sitting out in front of them. You can have this here on the board and the kids can simply copy it down into their copies. Or as a class, you could watch the videos together. But the idea is that they would submit their work then by Google Classroom so that you can see everyone who's handed it in and you can correct it then on Google Classroom. So it helps the fact then that you don't have to physically gather up all the copies every day. Okay. Just to go through some of this here as well, there's loads of different features. So I showed you how to add text, how to add images, and how to add videos. Here is one on heart and blood flow. I did a little lesson recap. Again, here is heart structure. I put in a heart diagram. I asked the kids to watch and reflect. So we do this together, put in some videos, etc. Here was another activity there. There was a heart Venn diagram. In a sense, it was kind of like a research grid they want the kids to do. Again, that's just Google Docs. Blood circulatory pathway, again, Google Docs. And again, students, you can create this by drawing in your copies or use a template. And then that can be accessed on Google Classroom under task 2. So basically the students can see where that work is. One little feature worked quite well is you can actually use quizzes in here as well. So for section 3, I did a recap quiz. So play this interactive quiz. Obviously, the students need a laptop or a phone to play the quiz, but they can play the quiz. So that might be a piece of homework then if you want the kids to start the quiz and they can play that then when they're at home. Okay, or you could do it together as a class group. So I'm just going to go out of this here now completely, out of the preview mode. So again, the most basic features for any Google Classroom, or sorry, not Google Classroom, any Google site is the text box, your images, and your drive. You can embed other links and stuff on other websites if you want. And the most important thing here is your button, your access to your Google Classroom button. So we just go back here to our one that we were making was a cell. We have our task 1. We have an image in here. We have a video in here. We have some descriptions here, and that's just by text box, and then Google Classroom in the end. One other nice thing was that if we had to go to online learning very quickly, that you have everything already built up in here. So if I had to go on online learning, I would say, okay, guys, school's been closed next week. What I want, we're going to do section 3 next week. So for Monday, we're going to do task 1. For Tuesday, we're going to do task 2, etc. If I was out for any CPD sessions or I was gone or I was off sick for a day or whatever, any sub-teacher coming in can continue onwards using this Google site here. So I don't have to leave loads of work and loads of pages and stuff, that everything is accessed here. This got a very good overwhelming response from the kids, especially during online learning. And I think the most important feature here was the fact that the kids said that they could actually see it on their mobile phones because they have Google Classroom, the app, on their phone as well. And when they were taking photographs of their work, everything was through their phone. and exactly this is what it looks like on their phone, and they can scroll and they can actually go to whatever section they want here. So they can look ahead or they can actually look back. They have everything they need there. They're not missing anything. If a student was absent for a day, that they know, okay, today they're doing task one. Maybe I could do it at home instead if I have to be off school for today for whatever reason. And there's Access Google Classroom. Again, this here is the most important part here, that we're not just giving students loads and loads of theory, that we're actually linking it here to Google Classroom in the background. So in the background, they have all that learning. And for me as a teacher, I can track all the students as they move through that website. I can track them all through those different sections. Okay. It reduces planning time, makes teaching and learning so much more accessible to students. Um, don't get too bogged down. Again, last thing is just these 4 little features is just to familiarize yourself with add a text box, add an image, add in a drive. We will give you this template here that we've created within the ETB, and we will help you through the whole process. Once you getting started, the students will have access to it on their mobile phones. But remember, you don't have to have the kids out having their phones in front of you. They don't have to go to the computer room. They don't have to have Chromebooks out in front of them. You can have this projected on your screen, and you can ask the kids, okay, tonight go on your phone and go to task one. Or if you've got a laptop at home, go to task one. Or if you have a tablet, do the exact same as that. Okay? I'm just going to end this here now. I'm going to pass you back over to Martin. If you have any questions, throw it in the chat box and we'll try and help you out as best we can. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Kieran McIlwain, is Muncher Corpidges, agus Gaelic me Golish the Milruia, a Milan Alagla. I'm going to speak to you about the benefits to the teacher of using Google Sites, and the benefits are most certainly passed on to the students and to parents who like to help and check in on homework as well. The site in the background here would have been a site I would have used with my second year ordinary level Irish group. So they would have been working with me at the beginning of lockdown. My own experience was I began, as a lot of teachers would have, and continued possibly as well, with Classroom, which was very, very good, and students were familiar with it because a lot of teachers were using it, and of course with Google Drive, which I would save a lot of my resources. But as you can see here from the stream just there in March, this is the 5th year class that I would have had. For example, I was posting maybe a Quizlet where I might capture their engagement, and maybe a day later share some notes with them, and then the next day give them a sample answer possibly, and then ask them to provide homework, based on all that work. And as you can see there, the stream is becoming populated, and that was just wasn't easy for myself. Looking back, saying a week later, see where we were, it certainly wouldn't have been easy for the students. So I knew I had to try something different. Google Classroom was very good, but putting all the resources up there was definitely congesting things. So that's where Google Sites came in. And if you look at this first lesson in one of the units to learn, which I was using for revision because you're heading in towards the end of the year, and I thought I'll use it for revision and in preparation for the house exam. So you can see here I was able to embed videos. Students could hit play, and down below then they could click the down arrow and complete an exercise, whether it was fill the blanks or further on down, they could read the text, the words, the text of the song in this case, and do their best to familiarize themselves with them, and indeed try and catch them more by completing a Quizlet based on the song. So it all there, and it was quite doable, because if you're familiar with Classroom and Drive, then Google Sites is the same G Suite. So you're inserting as you would into Classroom, and now the only addition, I suppose, you're dragging and dropping. I didn't want to lose Classroom, so down at the bottom of every section, I would always try and get somewhere where I could check in with them, or where they could check in. So I embedded a link, and that brought them directly to Google Classroom. Now mine, I have a few accounts on this, so I'll just click to the correct one, and there's the school one. So for the students, it would bring them into, that was Codgahane, and here we have, there's Codgy answer the questions in those, and the students would write their answer and post the question. So now I had Google Sites as a one-stop shop for all resources, but not only that, I could then embed a link from Classroom so I could get homework off them and check in on the homework. So that was that sealed the deal for me, really, because I wasn't losing anything. I was gaining in all ways. I did mention the students' benefit as well. Students were familiar with docs and so on, so they could access this, and it was bringing together all the resources for them. So they were really benefiting. You can see across the top here, there was a nice a structure: section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, section 5. They just completed the sections. So it was giving them a much more clarity. And instead of myself posting notes on a daily basis, this is how things began to look. I was making a post maybe on a Monday because it was a revision, and I was providing, well, Monday I'd like you to revise Codgy Jack or Skull. Didn't have to put in the Quizlet and the notes and so on. It was all there. And I know they had it in the book, so if they just wanted to revise Jack or Skull through the book, as many students were confined to, they could as well. So it made life a lot easier for myself, I suppose, in that I could plan ahead and provide the notes for the students. But definitely the students would have found that a help rather than seeing new posts every day. And parents would be able to check in as well. And often parents want to see where they're at. So, well, have you section 1 done? Have you section 2 done? As opposed to going to Classroom and seeing all of these notes. Google Sites is free, so I could duplicate and make a similar but different site for another second year group. And certainly this year I'll be able to duplicate it and change it for the incoming second year class that I'll have to teach. The site could be created very quickly. A couple of clicks would create a site, and even better if you have a template such as this one, which you can duplicate. But it takes a bit of time to build a site. There's no point me pretending that I handed this out to the students on the Monday. That's another really beneficial thing to teachers. I could release section 1 and I could hide section 2 from the students. So I was developing the unit of learning as the students were working on the unit of learning. So otherwise, I would have been too long getting it finished. The term could almost have been over. They were getting section 1 on the Monday, and I'd be working that Monday evening on section 2. So by Tuesday, that's section 2. So that was great. The other thing for myself as a teacher, you could see, I was now able to post the work on the Monday. If I go back to this, and it took a bit of pressure off having to repost stuff and that. So that was great. And I can just say this year it'll be great to come back in that I have this all in order, ready for my next group of students that are in whatever particular year group, or for revision. For fellow teachers, if another teacher was working on a site, well, they could duplicate it for myself and vice versa. So we're really now cutting down on time. And maybe even better, if the two of us worked on one site and I did section 1 of it, of well-being, and another teacher did section 2. I suppose at the minute as well, if I'm off work, the unit is there for a substitute teacher to put up on the board. I often post a screencast at the top of the page, and the teacher can show the screencast, which basically details what's in each section. And that's another way. If the students are off, they can continue on. And God forbid if we're both off, it's there, and it's going to be there to use. It'll hopefully improve students' digital literacy skills as well, and I suppose all this work online will. But I think for CBA2, for Gaeilge, it'll be a great means of presenting your CBA using sites. It looks better than slides. I personally feel so. If you're doing a presentation with your site in the background, it would be a great thing. Who's using my site? Well, I can click on analytics up here and find out who's using it, when they're using it, and so on. So it's good to know if you're presenting work, if students are checking in, and that's what analytics provides. A lot of teachers like to embed a calendar on the homepage so that students can see when the deadlines are, and maybe parents, guardians can also see, oh, well, I see from this calendar you have work to hand in on Tuesday. So that's another thing. It's user friendly. It's user friendly for teachers. It's drag and drop, and as I said already, if you use Classroom, then this will be. It takes a bit of time, but it's quite doable. And for the students, this is great that students can scroll down, and we as teachers can see what the students can see on their mobile device, because we know a lot of them are confined to their mobile device, and indeed they can use that and go to section 3 where they left off. So it's accessible. Of course, there's copyright issues. You must have your own stuff, but I mean, with Google, I'm just dragging and dropping from my Google Photos, and you can see a picture of me, Jim Hall, and it keeps it engaging for the students. And last year, at some stage, Donegal Fermanagh from last year, image there, or maybe it's the tug of war, as you can see on the screen. So whichever view the students have is there available. So that's it. Very importantly for me, it's a resource I can now use year on year with edits and adding to it, and maybe removing stuff, but updating it maybe with more modern images. But it's there for me. I think it's great that I can use it to assess, just formative assessment with the Quizlets and so on, whether it's to make stuff disappear or whatever it may be. Again, that option is there for the teacher. And finally, with all of that there, it'll hopefully lead to more positive engagement, as students can access it easily, and say with the gadgets and so on, it might capture their interest and so on. So Mille Buíochas as Éisteacht Liom. Thank you very much. I hope teachers have found it of benefit, agus sinna méid, I'm mór agus gaithreacht an bhliain scoile